Let me know when you can see me. At the same time, I'm going Instagram live.
Okay, you're live.
Okay,
Live,
perfect. Hello, everyone. Tina, I see you're number one in there. Hello. You're always number one. I appreciate it, Tina. Tina Dobbins. Lori Laws. Hello. How are you, Lori? It's good to see you. Thanks for joining. It's going to be a different type of show today. So very, very different type of show based on what people have been asking me for. So we're going to wait on some more people to join. I see Betty, Betty Yarwick. Hello, Betty. Jules. Hello, Jules. Trina Dixon. It's a pleasure. Thanks for joining. We're waiting on the rest of the team. Let's see how this works. I'm going to end this for a second. Waiting on our friends on Instagram. Let's just restart this. I'm going to restart the Instagram just so we can, because of the importance of the topic, it's important for us to have as many people as we can get. So, hi, Alice. Alice Jenkins is on with us. Farah, how are you? Wow, so many amazing people. I see a bunch of new people also. Hello, guys. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. I see our friends on Instagram are also in. Hello. We're going to wait on some more people to come in. Today is going to be a different show. It's going to be a different discussion. And we're just going to wait for more people to come in. Just a few housekeeping items. We're working on, I'm working on a name. I'm working on a name. And a few weeks ago, if you remember, actually, I think it must have been a month ago or so, I asked you, I didn't forget, I asked you for the name I should call the show. And many people had a lot of names, really good names. And we're going to use one of them. We're going to pick one. And so I really appreciate it. Thank you. There were so many, many amazing names. We still haven't picked it, but we're going to pick it soon. And maybe we'll give out something to the person who picked that name. Maybe we'll find someone to send to you, even if it's just a big, big thank you. But again, we're going to give people a few minutes. We were on time today. Usually we're kind of late, but we were on time. And I'm going to, let's just call it another minute or so, and then we'll start the show. I see a lot of people on Instagram. I see, by the way, my friends on Instagram, you should all go, if you can, to YouTube. That way I can see your comments. I can interact with you. Hi, Cheryl Henderson. Hi, Yvonne Atsu. Oh, Amber. There's Amber. That's my friend Amber. Amber K. Amber K is the pseudo moderator. She controls things over here. I love it. The way you sort of reinforce a lot of things I say. Hi, Jules. It's a pleasure to have everyone here. So we're going to give it one more minute, and we're going to start. We're going to talk about some very important things today. So we're just going to wait on some more people to come in. Hit the subscribe button. Don't forget. And you will, you'll get notifications whenever I'm on. And we're going to start. Today, we're going to talk about some things which have been on my mind. As you know, a big part of why I do what I do is to help the 99%, the people who can't help themselves, the people at the bottom of the social, the economic strata. A big part of what I've committed myself to doing is helping those people. And my friend Suchi over here is the start. You know, that's how I started. I'm going to tell you my story in a little bit, and then we'll walk forwards. Suchi is here to help people with student loans, and also people who, parents who want their kids to go to college without student loans. I mentioned to you, we're going to be announcing something big. It's coming. You know, we've been, there's been so much going on with people like us struggling for our rights on the streets that I decided to table that for another week or two. It's important for us to have this conversation. And so a big part of what I've been doing is fighting for you. And to do that, I've been teaching you about how I've been able to be successful, and I work with very, very many millionaires, billionaires, and I've worked with billion-dollar companies in the past. I know how they make their money, I know how they keep their money, and I know how they transfer that money over to their children. I can show you those things. I can show you how to create wealth. I can show you from being a child how to help your kids advance in life. So your kids should be listening to this broadcast. We don't swear. We don't once in a while though, and we're clean, but it's an educational program to help launch you from wherever you are into where you want to go. And so I've been talking a lot about this, and today we were supposed to talk about a couple of things. One of those was I was going to talk to you about the new what we're doing to help people with student loans as a company. And also, and we're doing it. We're just not going to announce it today because of what's going on in the country. The second thing was going to talk about life insurance and the different types, the importance or not, whether it's right for you or not. But I heard something on TV where a managing director of Goldman Sachs, which is a company, one of the companies that was a competitor to ours. When I was in Wall Street, I worked with Solomon Smith Barney. It's now called Citigroup Capital Markets. And he was African-American, and he was talking about his experiences as a Black man in corporate America, working for a big multinational conglomerate in the finance industry. And I've done a lot so far, but not enough. I've been on the streets. I've carried the placards. I've led the marches. I've posted on it. I've been very active in making sure our voices are heard, both on the streets and with my clients and the white and non-white people that clients and business partners that I have. I've been talking to people in the background and trying to influence the way they think about us. But I was, and I've, Tema and I, we have a show every Thursday, Couples in Quarantine. We've talked, when George Floyd died, we had his best friend, Stephen Jackson, on the show the next day. And we had a whole panel of how to, criminal justice and reforming it for Black Americans. And so we've done, quite a little bit, but I felt I hadn't done enough. Because when I heard the gentleman at Goldman Sachs, who's an employee, I'm an employer. I hire people. I hire white people. I have Black people. I hire Asian people and Hispanics. And I have business partners. And I have clients who are white and Black and green, every color. And I've been talking to him. But I felt if he could come out as a high-ranking employee of a major Wall Street firm and speak, people like me should be speaking. More about our experiences in corporate America, for better or for worse. And so that's what I'm going to do today. Some of it might be controversial, some of it might not be, but I'm going to speak the truth. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot. Let's just put it that way. There's a lot of good stuff and a lot of bad stuff. But I'll tell you where this, a lot of this kind of crystallized for me. Like I mentioned, I've been talking to a lot of people, influential people in corporate America, CEOs, suppliers, people in the finance and non-finance industry. And I've been talking to them about what's going on. People have called me, some white people, clients, and Hispanics have called me, and African American, to share ideas. A lot of the people that I work with, especially who are not Black, sometimes don't understand. And so they call me because they trust me to have a discussion. And I had one of those discussions a few days ago with a white friend and a colleague who is, successful. And he said to me, and again, that's a big part of why I'm doing this today. He said to me, David, you're very successful. As a matter of fact, you're rich. You're richer than me. That's him. What do you mean Black people don't have opportunities in America? You're successful. Oprah Winfrey is a multi-billionaire. Barack Obama was president. Rihanna was #1 on the charts a few weeks or months ago. Your girlfriend is a superstar making a lot of money. Your life is good. What are you complaining about? Why don't you guys, if you're not successful, just work harder, is what he said. And he said, and he's a good friend, and he was, I allowed him to speak his mind so I could educate him a little bit. And so I'm telling you the things he said. He said, well, as a Black man, you're successful. There's other Black men and women who are not as successful. Maybe it's because they don't want to work as hard. Maybe it's because they, you leave your kids. We have so many single moms because the men leave home and the kids don't have a role model. And he said, well, it's not the white people's fault. It's the Black people who leave home and they leave their kids. And to a certain extent, Black men shouldn't do that. But I needed to explain the context to him. And I actually went back, to slavery. And when you put someone in chains and you lock them up, and you take away their rights, and you on a slave ship 400 years ago, and you put them in chains, you take away their name, you take away their nationality, their ethnicity, you take away their, pretty much anything that their religion and anything else, and you strip them of every human rights, and you institutionalize them into slavery. Is what I told him. I kind of walked him through that. And you release them 150 years ago into a system that's broken. That's, here's the white bathroom, here's the Black bathroom, here's the white bus, here's the Black bus, here's the all through, and then you release him to a system he doesn't understand. It does something mentally. And then you create more jails than you do schools for Black people. You put us in, I asked him, I said, would you send your kid to Compton or South Central LA public schools, which and some of those schools are good, as good as they could be. And he said, no, I like, the Valley, or I like Rancho Palos Verdes, and I wouldn't send my kid to Compton and I said, why? Because maybe the teachers are not as they're good people there, but maybe they're not as well trained and as motivated as the ones in Beverly Hills. So the dropout rate is higher, and there is there's after school programs in Beverly Hills, for when mom and dad are working, the kids are not on the street and so on and so forth. And I kind of walked him through. It took, we were on the phone for a couple hours, and it was very enlightening for him. But that's not what I'm here to talk about today. The history of we all know our history. I'm here to talk about what it is to be a Black man in corporate America, and both the good and the bad. And so for many of you who are watching, the reason why I'm doing it is because I want to, many people out there, many non-Black people think, well, they're successful Black people, so the ones who are not successful must be lazy. It's not true. There's a system that is in America that sometimes, while it creates opportunities, it sometimes takes away that opportunity, and sometimes it puts a cap on that opportunity for certain people, whether it's demographic, race, or location, or otherwise. And here we're talking about race, so that's what I'm going to talk about. To help you understand a little bit of what I've been through in corporate America, I have to go back a little bit and tell you about my history. For those of you who don't know me, many of you know me. Many of you are my friends from, hey, Amber. Many of you are my friends from Nicole. Hey, many of you are my friends from Instagram, my friends from other places, but some of you don't know me. So it helps for me to tell my story really quickly and then talk about my philosophy in life, how I got where I did really quickly, and then talk about the things that have influenced me both positively and negatively and how I reacted to those things. And maybe it'll help you as you go through your life to figure out the things you can do to get to the place you want to be. So again, I'm from Lagos, Nigeria. I came here when I was 21 years old. I hopped on an airplane. I brought a bunch of bags. I was leaving for good. I had no intention of coming back permanently. I was looking for opportunity. And, I came to JFK, spent 5 hours looking for a way. I had $250 looking for a way to get from JFK to LAX. It took me five and a half hours, finally got to LA with $56. And 4 years later, I was at Harvard Business School. In the meantime, I passed the CPA exams at 22 years old, all 4 parts. Only 3% of people do that. And I got into Harvard. I was one of the youngest. I was 24 years old. I was actually, I think, turning 24, if I'm not wrong. And the average age then, I think, was 27 or 28. And I graduated 2 years later. And I went to Wall Street, and I became, very wealthy. After I left, I set up my own company and became even more wealthy. And I set up a group of offices around the country in New York and Woodland Hills and in Texas, in Fort Worth, in downtown, and I shrunk a lot of them because of technology. We're still making a lot of money, but things happened to me along the way, which influenced me, and I'm going to talk to you about some of those things. Now, coming from Lagos, Nigeria, many people ask, well, how is it to live in Lagos? How is Nigeria? And I tell you, a lot of growing up in Nigeria influenced my own outlook on life, because Lagos is a place where I was a little bit privileged. I grew up in an upper middle class family. I had good things. We had a cook, we had a steward, we had housekeepers, because labor was very cheap. But at the same time, you operated in the real world. And the real world of Africa, in Nigeria, Lagos particularly, was that the poverty rate was overwhelming. But the level of hope and drive, everyone thought they could be successful or thinks they could be successful. So there was always a hustle. It was always positivity. It was always, what's the next thing? There was never, oh, I'm giving up. And that level of positivity and hope influenced me. In Lagos, we didn't have racism because it was primarily Black. But we had tribalism, the Igbos and the Hausas and the Yorubas. We had a civil war, which was one tribe against another tribe. But growing up there gave me that sense of who I really am. And I would encourage you, if you're Black, if you're African American, you got to take at least one trip to Africa, because when you get there, particularly Lagos or Ghana or even Kenya, or even South Africa, but when you get there, you get a certain sense of pride, because everything you see is Black. The newscasters on TV are Black, the billboards, they're Black, the models are Black, the food is Black, the clothes are Black clothes, the music is Black music, the head of state, the president, and the governors are all Black. You develop a sense of pride. And especially when you have parents like mine who taught you, they didn't go to college. My parents never went to college, but they taught us we could achieve anything we wanted. And so we believed it. I believed that I could achieve anything I wanted. And if you're competing with me, you're going to lose. Why? Because I'm not going to stop. I saw the show, The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary about the last season of the Bulls. And I could connect with a certain personality type that Michael Jordan had that made him successful. Here it was. No matter how good you are, if you're competing with me, I'm going to win, because I'm not going to stop. And so I grew up with that philosophy. of I'll do it once, if it doesn't, I'll do it twice, and I'll do it three, and I'll never stop until I achieve my objective, my goal. And that's how I came to the US, with that mentality. So I come to the US, and I worked for a number of years as an accountant. I was solely focused on making money and being the best I could. I worked as an accountant, I worked as a waiter, and I worked as a tutor, all at the same time. I had 3 jobs. I slept 4 or 5 hours a day, and I worked really hard. A lot of things happened along the way. I was kicked out of my house. It's a different story. I didn't have a place to stay. I stayed in a building that was for sale, in Compton. I lived on 101 and 120th and Doty in South Central LA, which was then the den of thieves, of gangs. It was the den of gangs. But I didn't care. I'd wake up in the morning, 6, 7, I'd go to work, and I'd come back 12 midnight or 1. I was solely focused on achieving my objectives. I was able to pass my exams, my CPA exams. I was able to, do whatever is necessary to fill out the applications and finally get into Harvard Business School. And that's the first time I experienced being different because of my race. And it wasn't anyone particularly. Let me explain. There were 800 people in our class at Harvard Business School. There were 9 different sections. Each section is a class. And so like a classroom, and there were about 90 people, 89 to 90 people. So the 9 times 9 sections, that was about 800 people. So we had 9 sections of 90 people in each class. And it was in each classroom. There was a total class of 800. You do the first year at Harvard Business School, then you do the second year. The first year, and this is to get the MBA, the first year is extraordinarily intense. It is meant, you think you're smart, you come to Harvard Business School, you were smart in high school, you were smart in, you were one of the top in the school, you were great, you were getting all A's, and then you come to Harvard Business School and boom, you find people who are just as smart as you, some who are even smarter. So you're studying really, really hard. You're trying to be the top, but there's people who are just as smart as you. So you're working really hard. So it was extraordinarily intense. I don't care where you came from. I was an accountant. There were investment bankers, there were lawyers, there were professional athletes who came. They all found it very, very difficult. We used to have, to study and go to class somewhere around 16 to 18 hours a day. And it was so intense, many people failed out after the first year. They didn't go to the second year for any number of reasons. The primary reason was because they didn't pass the classes. Now, the dropout rate, I was class of 96. The dropout rate then, I think, was about 1%. That's about, of the 800 people at Harvard Business School, only about 8, if I remember correct, didn't come back for the second year. Of those 8, about half were African Americans. Okay, what does that mean? How many African Americans were at Harvard Business School in 96? 40. It's 5%. So there were about 5% of us at Harvard Business School who were Black. And we comprised 40 people of the 800. And 10% of us, 4, didn't come back. 10% African American, while of the overall population, 1%. 8. Why? Why were we failing out at such a high rate? Why were we, well, we're 4 smart, hungry, motivated, highly intelligent Black Americans, Black people, because some were African, failing out at a rate of 10% at Harvard Business School, class of 96, when the average was 1% for everybody else. Part of it was because of the way the system was constructed. And a big part of that was the way we were taught. At Harvard Business School, 50% of your grade is class participation. You have to put your hand up to participate. So you could be as smart as a whistle and pass all the written tests. That only counts for 50%. 50% of your grade is raising your hand or being called on, speaking up. And so a lot of African Americans didn't feel comfortable with doing that in the class. And I'll talk about my own experience, which was in some ways, look, Harvard Business School helped me a lot. It gave me the start I needed. It gave me the tools, and it gave me the opportunity. It gave me the credibility, but there was a different side. And I'll tell you what happened. Okay, so here I am, an aggressive, young, 24-year-old, intent on being successful in life. I got to Harvard Business School. They tell me 50% of my of my grade is class participation. So I'm thinking, oh, I can talk. I like to talk, right? I'm talking about. So every time I'd raise my hand, usually when, the professor calls, I'd always raise my hand. I wanted to talk. I was always, alert. I was always, and something happened. The class sort of turned against me. There were 2 or 3 Black people in class. Remember, we were 40 of us divided into 9 classes. So I think there were 4 of us, who were African American, and there were 76 non-African American. The class kind of turned against me because they thought I was being too aggressive. So there were times I would raise my hand to speak, and the class would murmur and rumble and would boo. I was booed in my own class for raising my hand to speak because the class thought I was being too aggressive, when that's the whole purpose of class participation, to participate and be aggressive. And so I stopped putting down my hand as aggressively. And for me, however, I still kept doing it because I knew I had to pass, and I paid more attention to the written part. But there were a lot of people, Black people, African Americans, in that situation who stopped raising their hands. And because classes are 50%, a lot of those people, even when they were good at written, because they didn't raise their hand as often, which they didn't do because they would, the non-Blacks would consider them to be too aggressive. Many of them didn't succeed. 4 of them didn't succeed, which was a tragedy. Many of them were my friends. I think they came back later on to finish, but it was sad. And that was my first interaction with, there were other people, there were other non-Blacks who were just as aggressive. But I was picked on. I was, it wasn't one person. It wasn't 2 people. I don't think people were, targeting, that's a Black guy, but it was just the perception that Black men in general are aggressive people, or more aggressive, that when a situation occurs, like it did, where I was in competition and I was doing what some others were doing, because of the perception, I was picked on. I graduated, I didn't fail out or anything. I passed, I actually had great grades. I graduated and went to Wall Street. But that was the first time I encountered this thing called institutional racism. I'm gonna tell you something I've never told anyone before. I graduated Harvard Business School in '96. Because of some of my experiences there, I've never gone to a class reunion. I never went. I didn't go to my 5-year. I didn't go to my 10-year. I didn't go to 15, and I didn't go to 20. It's sad, it's sad. But maybe I'll go one day. I've given money to nonprofit causes. I've given hundreds of thousands, of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to nonprofits, right? Over the years, over the decades. I've never really given any money to my alma mater because I almost feel like as much as it helped me, that got shocked on my face of being a strong Black man and being picked on for being a strong Black man. And so I had to reduce my aggression, and I had to reduce the temper, and I had to take my personality and dumb it down so as not to offend my non-Black friends, was something that left a really, really bad taste in my mouth. Because remember, coming from Africa, anything was possible. I could be president. I could, then in Africa, if you were not born here, you can't be. I could be governor, I could be a senator, I could be rich, I could be Bill, I could do anything I wanted. And then to realize that I couldn't raise my hand as much as I wanted was a shock to me. And a big part of that was why, a lot of our African Americans didn't come back. So that was the first time I experienced something that was not, was driven by race, as subtle as it was. And these things are always very subtle, but that's one circumstance. I'm going to talk about more things. How much time do we have? Technical team, are we good for time? Are we running out of time over here?
Let me see.
Okay, we're 33 minutes in, so we have. Okay, so I'm going to tell you another. I have a bunch of examples. I'm going to tell you one that I'm kind of going through now, and it started about in my job. As you know, I started my own company about 2003, and we've expanded, we've grown, we've done a great job, around. We make a lot of money, we're very successful, and I started the technology company to actually help student debt. But the company I'm talking about now is the finance company, the Pacific Group. It's a wealth management firm. It manages money, it does insurance, it does financial planning. And I started the company in 2003, and I opened up the Texas office somewhere around 2008, 2009. And I hired, I brought on partners. One partner and staff. We were growing. We were in Fort Worth, we were in Dallas, we were in Woodland Hills, we were in New York, we were in LA, we were expanding. And this particular occasion, I set up the office in Fort Worth, Texas. And what happened is we had a relationship with a company there called a big payroll company called Paychex. And again, this is no reflection on anything, on anyone or any company or anything. I'm just telling things the way they happened. So we started a relationship with a company called Paychex. And essentially Paychex is a big 401k company that also does payroll, a payroll company that does 401k. And they were sending us a lot of clients. I mean, we were great. We run a really good, tight ship, really great, a great service. We reduce costs, we help people, we do a really good job. So Paychex in North Texas was sending us a lot of business, after we started the relationship. This was, I think, 2010, 2011, 12. And they were sending us, after a while, they were sending us so much business, 401k business, that there was a time they accounted for more than 50% of our new business, 50 to 60% of our new business, which was great because in my industry, you have to go out and market. You have to bring in clients. You have to go out and sell. You have to go out and form relationships so you can get referrals. When a company is just giving you referrals because they think you're great and you're doing a really good job without having to go out and rate and market and work hard to get the referrals, that's great. That's like manna from heaven. Her name was Claudia, our relationship there. And it was such a great time. And then we were making money. Things were good. For a Black-owned firm in Fort Worth, Texas, it was great. And something happened about 2 or 3 years into the relationship. Something happened that is affecting me today, that affected me significantly today, even still. Both mentally and financially, but I'll tell you how that works. Again, this is coming from someone who was very successful. We were making millions. We had a pitch, which is we were with Paychex in a marketing effort with a big insurance company to get their 401k business. So Paychex brought us in to work with them on it, as they did with a lot of other 401ks. And we did the pitch, to get the business. And about 3 or 4 days later, Claudia, who was our relationship with Paychex, called me over the phone. Claudia was this Mexican lady, first generation. She really thought I was great. And I thought she was amazing. You know, we had a great dynamic. You know, she had two amazing kids and we got along so well. It was a business, strictly business relationship, but we got along so well. She had a little accent, which was so cute, and she was amazing. And what happened is she calls me after we did the presentation, about 3, maybe 4 days later. And she said, David, you didn't get it. It was a big deal. It was like $7, $8, $9 million in assets. We would have made, I don't know, $80,000, $75,000 or something like per year by charging them like 1% like we usually do. So it was kind of a big deal. She called me and said, well, David, you didn't get the pitch to the insurance company. And I said, okay, well, I understand. We'll go to the next one. That's my philosophy. Let's go to the next one. And she said, well, stop. Do you know why you didn't get it? Now, let me describe the meeting we had, right? With the insurance company. There were about 4 of the insurance executives there. They were all white. I was there with Claudia, who's Mexican, my partner, who's white, and 3 of us were in the meeting presenting to these 4 white gentlemen. We did a great pitch. Here's me, Harvard MBA, Wall Street investment banker, highly experienced, really good at what I do. And I gave one of my best pitches. And she called me and said, Dave, you didn't get it. And I said, oh, I was surprised, but look, let's move on. No big deal. And she said, Dave, I want to tell you why you didn't get it. And I said, well, tell me why. And she said, it's because you're Black. I said, oh, why? I mean, what, how do you know? And did they tell you that? She was like, no, they didn't. But they asked for somebody else. They said, we don't want to work with that guy. And she said, oh, okay. I mean, well, Paycheck's their business. They got to make money too. So, you know, she's like, okay. She brought in somebody else with a different company. I think with a different financial firm. And the guy was, you know, blonde hair, blue eyes, and he was 2 years out of college. Here I was, you know, 15 years out of college with a Harvard MBA, and here was a kid, 2 years out of college, and he got it. He got the deal, the big deal. And so she said, David, when they told me, you know, that they didn't want you, and I brought this, you know, this young guy in, and he got it, you know, I knew why. And I said, okay, well, that's kind of how I was, right? Okay, rolls off my shoulder, move on. And then she said something that blew me away. And by the way, Claudia she liked me a lot as a professional. She thought our services were outstanding. But then she said, David, I can't send you out on any more business. I can't refer any more business to you because we're in Texas. We're in North Texas, Fort Worth. And because of what had just happened, and maybe some other people, you know, who should talk to, because of what, you know, I found out later, who had said, you know what, we prefer not to work with that guy, the Black guy. She said, because of that, I can't send you any more business. I was shocked. Here was a company that accounted for 50% of my revenues and, you know, over 50% of my revenues. And it was great. We're having an amazing time. We're doing a great job and business was expanding good. And now you're going to take that away from me. And I asked Claudia, I said, well, what can I do? And she said, bring in your partner to be the face of the company, my white partner. To be the face of the company. This is my junior partner, 20% of the company. You know, I trained him. I brought him in 8, 9 years ago, trained him, taught him everything he knew. And she said, hired him in Texas. And she said, if he's the face of your Fort Worth operation, I can keep sending you business. That's my white partner. But I can't send you any more business. Now, many people would say, oh, I should have, you know, walked away. I should have refused. I shouldn't have, you know, worked with him. I should have, you know, in theory, that's good, you know, to give away all of the millions of dollars you're making and all that. But I've always been the kind of person who put business first. And so I decided I would let him run that operation. And so I stepped away. I mean, I owned 80% of the company, so I was still making a lot of money. and I let him be the one, the face of the company in Texas. So he was the one who was going on all the marketing meetings. I was still, telling him what to do, and I was still showing him the ropes. I was still giving him advice, but I wasn't the face. People didn't know me. We didn't have our pictures up. Now we have our pictures up on our website. We didn't have our pictures up then on the website, and so he started running the business, and things were good until he decided that he didn't want to be partners anymore. He was the face in Fort Worth. He was running things. He'd been around for 8-9 years, and he knew what he was doing, and he just didn't want me as a partner anymore. And he decided he wanted to break away. And he pretty much took away almost all of my clients in Fort Worth. 40% of my entire business overall. While I was running LA and running New York and running the rest of it, he took it away. He just went to the clients. He took away all the white clients. Well, not all, but a lot of my white clients. He didn't take any of the Black clients or Hispanic clients. He took away only my white clients, a lot of my white clients in Fort Worth. It broke my heart. I brought him on 10 years ago. I gave him Fort Worth because I was asked to by Claudia, because that was the only way to keep the business, because a lot of the people in Texas, don't want to work with a Black man. A lot of the people she was pitching to, I know, there's a lot of people in Texas who work with Black people, but in that situation, I had to do that. Or I felt I had to. And he took away 40% of my business. Broke my heart. It really did. Happy to say, as of now, we're back up. We've made, we'll probably make about 4 times more money than we made then. That's kind of how I am. You lose 1, you go for 2. You lose 3, you go for 5. You lose 10, you go for 20. You don't stop. Remember, you're not going to defeat me. If you're my competitor, you're not going to defeat me. That's just my philosophy. I'm going to keep working as hard as I can. Right now, I sleep 4 to 5 hours, maybe 6 hours a day. I work really hard. And I'm going to keep working hard because it gives me pleasure. And so I went back to the grindstone, started rebuilding the business, went back to work, and we're up 4 times now, but I could have been up 8 times. I could have been up 10 times. I could have been up 20 times. I felt like a cap was put on me. I've blown through that cap, but there are a lot of young people who, confronted with a situation like that, may not have been able to blow through the cap. There are a lot of young Black men and women who would have caved and have felt maybe angry and have let the anger consume them and have, maybe reacted. Again, it was unfortunate. I'm still going through it now, still going through the effort, and it's sad, but that's what I call institutional racism. If that insurance company of all white men hadn't told that company that they didn't want to work with me, and if that company who didn't want to work with me, if that company that we were working with that was driving over 50% of my revenue hadn't told me that they didn't want to work with me, unless I brought in my white partner wouldn't have had the opportunity to take away 40% of my business, my entire Texas operation. Only the white people, but he took them away. And they left. No judgment on the clients. Clients are free to go wherever they want. But it was just a pure example of how the system, even for very successful people, I bet if you ask Oprah Winfrey, I bet if you ask Barack Obama, I bet if you ask Jay-Z and Beyonce, I bet if you ask my own Tamar tells me, I bet if you ask any of the most successful Black people in America today, they will tell you they succeeded despite the system. Not necessarily because of the system, because the system has opportunities. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of opportunities out there, but sometimes there's a cap for us. But our job is to break through that cap. Now, let me tell you one more. I've given you an example of college. Don't feel sorry for me, by the way. Do not. I see people they're like, oh, I'm sorry you went, I'm sorry you went through that. I see the comments. Don't feel sorry for me. I'm a winner. I pick myself back up and I run. I'm always, when I say I run, I keep running. I keep moving forward. You don't walk, you keep running, you keep moving forward. But I'll give you an example of how institutional racism works in school. I've given you examples of how institutional racism works at work. Now, let me give you an example of how it works socially. All right, so I'm going to give you an example of Fort Worth again. We have an office in there in a place called the Fort Worth Club. It's a really nice place, very beautiful, great, great club. It's a private membership club, so we had an office there, and we also have an office there, and there's also a restaurant, attached to it to the club. So the club owns a restaurant, the club owns an office building, which we were. The club owns a hotel, the club owns a gym, all within one building. It's really beautiful, and really beautiful place. And I had an office. I have a significant office there. And a few months ago, I think this was October or November, I was staying in the hotel. Normally when I'm in Texas, I stay with my sister who lives in Texas. She lives in Colleyville, beautiful part of Texas. And because I like Texas, so, and my mom's there too, so often, so I'm usually there. But this time I was there for, I think, 3 or 4 days. It was really busy, it was very intense. I was going to be working 18 hours a day. I didn't want to drive all the way from Colleyville. So I decided to stay close to where I worked, which is in the hotel that's next to my office, both owned by the Fort Worth Club. And the day I got there, I wanted to go use the sauna. As a guest of the hotel, you can use the sauna. This was a few months ago. I was 50 years old. You can use the sauna. So I went downstairs. I checked in, and I walked in, and I walked into the sauna. And I was in there. I love the sauna, by the way. I think it's very therapeutic. You sweat, you get rid of, So I was in the sauna. I was chilling. I was just, I like to hang out. I like to be in there for like 20 minutes, go shower, come back for 10 minutes, go shower, and come back. It keeps me rejuvenated. I sweat out all these impurities. And so I was in the sauna, and I saw a guy. He was a white guy. Must have been maybe 60 years old, past me. He was looking at me, kind of weird. Like, I'm like, whatever. I'm used to people looking, because I'm in Fort Worth. There's not a lot of, successful Black men, that I've seen. There's a lot of, people, but not a lot of, very successful people there. So I was in there, and about 3 minutes later, so he passed by. I was the only one, and he passed by, and then a security guy came. A Black guy. And he said, excuse me. He opened the door of the sauna and said, who are you? I said, excuse me? He said, what are you doing here? I said, I'm using the sauna. He said, what's your name? I said, David. He said, step out. What? Somebody died? What happened? Okay. So I stepped out. And then he said, show me your ID. What are you doing in here? And as he was speaking, 2 other security guards came. One stood at the door, one walked in and said, well, we're here to just make sure you're who you say we're here to just make sure that you have permission to be in here. I flipped out. A Black man using a sauna in the Fort Worth Club, you want to make sure I have permission? Did you realize I have office space upstairs? I rent significant amount of space in the Fort Worth Club. Did you realize that I'm actually staying in the hotel also? Did you realize I have 2 other employees of mine staying in the same hotel? We have 3 rooms. And because I'm Black, you asked me to. So anyway, well, I was calm. You got to be calm in these situations. So he went, I stood in my towel while he went to the front desk, checked, and came back about, I was standing for 3 or 4 minutes. Went, checked, and said, oh, we've confirmed your identity. We've confirmed that you have office space here. We've confirmed that you have, you're staying in the hotel, you're free to go. Okay. I'm pissed, but whatever. I go get my clothes, I dress, you know, you got to always stay calm in these situations. I got dressed, and here's the final straw. As I was leaving, 5 security guards were at the door, white, and they were looking at me aggressively, 5 of them, waiting for me to leave. So I made a stink. It was a big deal. Had a meeting next day with one of my security guys. Had a meeting with the 2 guys who run it, who run the club and the hotel. I got an apology letter. 3 days later, they did an investigation. They said, Mr. Adefeso, we understand and we accept. We understand what happened. We're retraining our staff. We're doing this. We're doing that. All the things they're doing to combat the deep racism that club has. And I haven't been back to the Fort Worth club since then. Even though I have an office, I'm paying rent every month. I haven't been back to the office. It left a very bad taste in my mouth, primarily because here I am, 50-year-old, very intelligent businessman. I'm rich, and I got treated like I was shit. What about those 22, 23, and I have a voice, I can speak. What about the 22, 23, 24-year-old kid who doesn't have a voice? So I have to speak out for him. And that's what I'm doing now. Now, the system is amazing. The American system, there's nothing like it. It is full of opportunity. It is full of, so much that you can do. It's like they call it the land of milk and honey. You can be a lawyer, you can be a doctor, you can be an accountant, you can be a governor, you could be president. But there's certain things that you want to realize. There is racism. A lot of it is institutional racism. A lot of it is built into the system. Are you going to let that stop you? No. Hell no. We're going to do 2 things. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to fight for equal rights. And that's what we're doing. That's why I was with you on the streets, carrying the placards, leading them, making noise, peaceful. But we're going to lead that fight. We're going to speak about it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to aggressively peacefully but strongly let our voices be heard. I thank you that you've been doing that. It's very important. But we're also going to take our power back economically. And that's why I've been teaching you some of the things that you need to know to rise up. It's not enough just for them to give us equal rights under the law. That's our right. You can't give me equal rights. I already have those rights. It's not enough for them to give us our civil rights. That's my right. You can't give me my right, something I already have a right to. In addition, we should take our economic responsibilities very seriously to ourselves and our families. And that's what I'm teaching you. We need to be able to rise above, to learn about stocks, to learn about bonds, to learn how to protect our assets from creditors. We need to learn how to save. We need to learn how to invest. It's okay to buy Gucci once in a while, but not all the time. That money is, you invested in a product that goes down in value. That's the only liabilities go down. We want assets. We want assets that go up in value. We want to buy real estate. We want to buy gold. We want to buy stocks. We want to buy bonds. We want to buy those things that go up in value. And those are the things I'm teaching you. Now, many people ask me, they say, apart from all this stuff, if you were to give advice to people who are, we're almost at the end of this chat. If you were to give advice to people who are in the corporate world, young people, the 21-year-olds, the 20-year-olds, the 23-year-olds, the ones who are Black, who are just getting into the workforce. A few things I gotta tell you. The first is, keep your head up. You're Black and you're proud. Look, I got dreadlocks. I've always been an anomaly, right? I've always been different. I've always been myself. I dress the way I want to dress. Many people wear suits and ties to work because they have to show that, no, I like jeans and t-shirts. That's what we do. Many people, are a little bit more conservative. And no, I'm who I am. I grow my hair the way I want to do it. I've always had, I've always been able to express myself. That's what makes me who I am. Don't let your individuality be sucked into the system. Be who you are. If you're Black or you're blue or you're green or you're orange, whatever it is, be who you are. That's what gives you the pride to wake up the next morning. Because if you're not who you are, then who are you? So that's the first thing I would ask you. Be yourself. The second thing I'm going to tell you is, don't ever accept defeat. Don't ever accept it. The system may be warped. The system may, take advantage. The system may, take advantage of your insecurities. The system may keep you down in some ways. You can't the system can't do anything to you that you're not doing to yourself. Don't allow yourself to be kept down. Work harder. Look, one of my favorite sayings is a guy called Ray Kroc, right? He was speaking to, I think it was Wharton School. He never finished college, and he was the founder of McDonald's. And he spoke to this graduating class, and he said, you know what? It's important to work half days. Let me tell you why it's important to work half days. And it doesn't matter what half of the day it is, the first 12 hours or the next 12 hours. What he was basically telling you is work hard. If you work as hard as everyone else, you'll be as successful as anyone else. If you work 50% more than everybody else, you'll be twice as successful as everybody else. If you work double what everybody else is working, it'll be 5, maybe 10, maybe 20 times. You'll leave people in the dust. Now, not just idle work, constructive work. Even if you're not working, learn, grow. Don't let yourself fester in the anger, which I could have had at Harvard Business School. I could have had when my partner stole, took 40% of my business away. I could have been angry at the Fort Worth Club and said, no, you can do it. You can just take control of your own life and work harder, work smarter, get an education. It's very, very important. Education doesn't mean college necessarily. College is good. College is great. You shouldn't want to go to college because it gives you a stepping stone into life. But education could be trade school, art school, acting school, singing school, learning how to code. Do something that improves you. That way you're constantly learning, you're constantly improving, you're constantly evolving. The system changes. Don't stay stuck in one place. Get a role model. A role model, I never really had role models. Remember, I came from Africa, I was, kept my head down. I just worked, did all the things, and I never really picked a role model. I did have role models, but not people who were close to me. There were people I admired from afar. And if you get a role model, I don't care who that is, use that role model as motivation for you. You look at where they are, you can do, I don't care who your role, maybe Oprah Winfrey, maybe Barack Obama, maybe Robert Smith, maybe, I don't care who it is, pick a role model and work towards being that role model. Read about that role model. Email them. Ask them questions. Many people would respond. If you send me an email and you want to engage with me and you want to ask me questions, and you're a young man, a young African-American man who wants to learn, I'll be very, very happy to open up to you about the things that I've done and the things that you can do. Never, never, never refuse. Never, never, never accept defeat. Never. Anyway, how far are we? I think I've said a lot. I think we're at the end of our broadcast and our discussion. Again, this is a little bit different of a discussion. Today, I wanted to basically open up to you and show you the challenges that I've experienced in corporate America, but also to let you know that not just corporate America, school, corporate America, socially, through racism that's institutionalized, but I also wanted to, if possible, inspire you to see that in spite of the institutional racism, you can rise above by working harder, by working smarter, by picking a role model, by never accepting defeat, by saving, by investing, by doing the things I teach you. And so I'm going to end it. You know, it's very emotional. Usually it's all business when I say these things. I just told you some things people, some of the closest people to me don't even know because there's things I've kept in for a long time. But it feels good to share. Hopefully other people who are influential out there, other public figures, other businessmen, other Black, strong, young and old will come out and tell their story. Because for the white guy who I was talking to, the white friend of mine, who's very close and dear to me, for the white guy who I was talking to the other day, who felt I was a success, and maybe that was a reflection of how the type of opportunity Black people had, by telling him my own story of racism and my own stories of how the system puts a cap on us sometimes, hopefully he can connect to some of the things that I went through, because he knows me. He knows I'm not the one who's going to cry and yeah, the system is holding me down. No, nothing can hold me down. Nothing can hold you down. Nothing can hold you down. Only you. Hopefully he connects a little bit and he maybe sees things a little bit different, which I think he does. So to my friends on Instagram, y'all should go to my YouTube page. You should sign up on YouTube. I'm looking at you guys over here. I love you very much, but go to YouTube and subscribe so you can know when I have a lot more of these talks. So next week, I'm going to go back to the original thing we talked about. I'm going to talk about intergenerational wealth planning and life insurance, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Thank you. God bless you. I love you very much. And I'll talk to you soon. Keep the struggle going. Make sure it's peaceful, but keep fighting. We will not bend. We will not break, and we will not relent until our dream comes true. Thank you. God bless you.